A couple of years ago, I reviewed the Apple Watch Series 1, and at the end of that video I said I don't think smartwatches are for me, and they're certainly not at the point where I'd consider wearing one every day. However, the Apple Watch Series 4 might be the first smartwatch to change that. Let's dig into what makes this iteration so much better. While Apple released its new iPhone XS and XR at the 2018 September event, the Apple Watch was clearly the star of the show. There was a wealth of improvements across the board, some interesting health functions, and more importantly, it was the first time Apple changed a design since the first generation. That design change starts with the new screen. You're getting 30% more this year in a very similar sized body, and it really shows. It's a rounded edge-to-edge panel now, and it looks fantastic. The OLED display continues to impress too, with inky blacks and bright punchy colours. It's a solid upgrade that's really welcomed on the watch. As a whole, the body has been slimmed down. It might not be completely obvious at first, but this doesn't have the chunkiness of the older models. While the buttons on the right side are the same, the digital crown had some attention this year. There's haptic feedback now when turning the crown, which makes scrolling through apps and the menu feel more tactile and real in a weird way. And there is a new landmark function in the addition of an electrocardiogram. Yet, while it's not released right now, the watch can take an ECG using the digital crown and generate a PDF, and even email it to your doctor. That's pretty insane, and as Apple pointed out, it's the first consumer product to do this. There's also a fall detection feature too, which doesn't sound overly useful for someone like me, but I can imagine certain jobs or certain people finding this feature really helpful. The speaker had some work done too. I found the Series 1 speaker to be really quite quiet, making things like phone calls on the wrist not really worth bothering with. However, that's been completely remedied here. The speaker on the Series 4 is loud, and taking a phone call through your wrist no longer feels like a gimmick. It's actually totally usable. Even the unboxing experience had an overhaul this year. Apple are clearly very proud of this product, even going as far as presenting the watch in a nice microfiber cloth to keep it safe in transit. There's good news for previous Apple Watch owners too. All of your old watch bands will still fit in the Series 4, as the smart way the bands connect hasn't been changed. With all these design changes and the exceptional new screen, the Apple Watch is still the best looking wearable out there, and the Series 4 just pushes that envelope even further. One of the first things I noticed software-wise on the Series 4 is the raise to wake is way better than my experience on the Series 1. I think the whole time I've been using the watch, I've yet to deliberately flick my wrist to bring up the time. Whether that's a combination of hardware and software, I don't know, but it's a really solid improvement. The Apple Watch is now in watchOS 5, so in a similar vein to iOS, there aren't any huge shake-ups in terms of how the software looks and works. A single press of the digital crown will still bring up your app selection screen, holding it will bring up Siri, double tapping the lower button still brings up Apple Pay, and a single press lets you fly through your recent apps. There are some nice new additions though, starting with some stunning new watch faces. The infograph face makes use of the bigger screen with a million bits of customizable information on it. The kaleidoscope and breathe faces have a nice relaxed vibe to them, and the vapor, fire and water ones are particularly impressive. And the video geek in me loves that these are real filmed effects, not CGI. It's still a shame there's no third-party faces to be seen, but there's certainly something for everyone here. Raise to speak is another new function of the Series 4. Put simply, this allows you to speak to Siri without any commands at all. You simply raise the watch and speak into it, then Siri jumps in and sorts you out. When it works, it can be really quick, but my usage with it has been somewhat temperamental. Half the time Siri will activate straight away and serve up what I'm after, and the other half of the time the watch didn't do anything at all. When that happens and you're sat there talking into a watch with no reply, well, it's not a great look. Luckily, if you want to talk to Siri, the old command of holding the digital crown still works perfectly fine. Lastly, the walkie-talkie function is new this year too. It's a pretty simple app which just lets you talk to another Apple Watch wearer in a push-to-talk setting. I've yet to try it out, so I can't comment on how good it is, but it's another nice addition to have. Fitness is still one of the watch's main focuses, and as ever, there's some great built-in tracking here. While setting goals and closing the rings is still as addictive as ever, it's the new additions that make it a better overall fitness companion. Automatic workout detection is great in case you forget to set up before a workout or do some unexpected exercise. There's a ton of new running features for those that run. Hiking and yoga has been added as an activity, and activity competitions make working out with friends that bit more interesting. While these additions are obviously fantastic, buying an Apple Watch isn't going to get you in shape. You have to make the decision to do that, but its little nudges here and there might just make you think about it a little more. Battery life is another area where the Series 4 sees improvement over the rest. I'm easily getting through 2 days on a charge. That's with tracking the odd bit of fitness, flying through notifications and general time checking. With lighter use though, I have even got through to the end of a 3rd day, which is really impressive stuff. As with anything though, your mileage will vary depending on how you use the watch. However, I'm confident that most people will see 2 days of battery life with no issue. If you do find yourself running low, charge times aren't terrible. About an hour on charge will juice you up about 50 or 60%, and 2 hours will give you a complete charge. Power delivery still comes from the wireless magnetic puck style charger, which is fine. However, I really wish Apple would let the watch charge on any wireless charger. But until the still missing in action AirPower comes out, I think that's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, my biggest gripe with the Apple Watch is still present. I wish it had an always on display, and I can only assume Apple won't do this because of battery life. I really think the watch would benefit from a dim always on time display. OLED panels have the technology to light specific pixels, so there's no reason why it can't be added. Companies like Samsung have always on displays of their phones, so I can only hope Apple comes round to this idea in the future. Personally, I'd happily shave off a few hours of battery life for this feature. If you've been on the fence about an Apple Watch, the Series 4 might be the perfect point to dive in. It's got pretty much everything you could ever want from a smartwatch: decent looks, great battery life, smart fitness tracking and good software. But there's no getting around it's a pricey device. Starting at $399 this time, this is the most expensive Apple Watch to date, and you've got to really consider if that price is something that you're willing to swallow. Overall though, the Apple Watch is the most consistent, best designed and most well-rounded wearable on the market, and in my opinion, the Series 4 is certainly worth your time. That rounds off this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, pop a like, tickle that subscribe button if you're new, and maybe even hit that bell. I will see you all in the next one.